Hi everyone, and for those who are paying a tiniest bit of attention, it's not July the 28th as the slide says. Don't panic, it is the 11th of August, you've not missed anything massive. Hi and welcome to another 15-minute mastery session. Today we're looking at data, what's available, how to get your hands on it and how to use it for improved outreach. I'm Jo Henderson, I work as part of the marketing team and I'm joined today by Giles Garnett, our Head of Professional Services. Hi Giles.
Hello.
Hello. Before I hand over the microphone in full, I have a few notes of my own to share. So as usual, there's a Q&A section for you to ask your questions and we'll pick those up at the end for anyone who'd like to stay on. The resource section has links to a few useful articles to help you follow up, and those links will also remain accessible for the on-demand version as well, which incidentally you'll be sent a link to tomorrow, so you can watch this session back if you need to. Let me just jump on a slide to introduce you to the concept that although we're taking a break at the end of the month from our usual fortnightly webinars, our next one will be on the 8th of September. And needless to say, we've named it Operation Hush for now because it's our biggest announcement yet. We can't give you any more details, but just trust us. If you want a more streamlined outreach process, then register for the session to find out what it's all about, and we'll give you a few more teasers nearer to the date. And on that note, Giles, talk to us about data, please.
Thanks, Jo, and hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening indeed to anybody, wherever you may be. Thank you for joining us once again. And for anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Giles. I'm Head of Professional Services here at Dux-Soup. Thanks for the intro, Jo, and hopefully the slides will now work. What we are going to cover today in our whistle-stop tour, we don't have that long. We're going to try and keep this nice and concise, but hopefully give you some sort of tidbits and some good information to be able to go away and make use of the data that Dux-Soup can gather. We're going to talk about what data Dux-Soup is able to see in LinkedIn and how you can collect that data, how you can get visibility of that data once it's been seen by Dux-Soup or by your platform. We'll talk a little bit about what the difference is about the different data between regular LinkedIn, Sales Navigator and Recruiter, and then how you can then make use of that data for better outreach, or maybe even for adapting the data that you have in your CRMs. We'll also talk about the difference between scan data and visit data, and that's something we'll spend quite a bit of time on, because a lot of people, they just want high level data and you can do that really efficiently using Dux-Soup, or you want more detailed data and you have to then visit profiles. That takes a bit longer, but it can also be achieved using Dux-Soup. We'll also talk about the differences between Dux-Soup Pro, Turbo and Cloud, so you can explain how those different platforms are able to handle data if you want to gather data through the different platforms. And without further ado, let's go on to the next slide. So what data? So when a profile is opened, Dux-Soup can see data. So for example, if you're using Dux-Soup to auto visit profiles, every profile that Dux-Soup opens, it can see the publicly visible data related to that profile. So if you watch the robot when it's in action, and whether you're using the Pro version or the Turbo version, and you see either the little pop-up appear or the new tab open, if you then go to that tab, you can then see Dux-Soup. It'll scroll down the page, it'll open up the contact details, and then it's gathering that data on your behalf, the data that it can see. It is optional to gather the data, and you do need to turn on one of the options in the Dux-Soup options in order to make sure that it is stored locally. But then depending upon the environment you're using in LinkedIn or Sales Navigator, certain data will be available to you. So sometimes you can gather, for example, job history and skills, but not in every instance. It very much depends upon the platform. And then we also talk about visiting or scanning. Now, when we talk about scanning, we're talking about scanning from a list. So you'd carry out a search and scan that list. Now, if you're visiting, you would have that list on your page and you'd say either enroll into a campaign or visit those profiles. Remember, every action that Dux-Soup performs, it has to open a profile. So during visits, during messages, during connection requests, during liking a post, following a profile, it's able to gather data there. And it's always just going to gather the latest information that's against that particular profile. And key information that can gather, you know, the really important stuff, it's first name, it's last name, and it's the various LinkedIn URLs. And then depending on, again, as I said earlier, which platform you're using, you then get the additional information like the job title, the industry, the location, the about section, and other bits and pieces as well. And we'll show you some examples shortly. So visit or scan. So I might jump into a scroll. No, I'll show you this in the demo a little bit, but we've got like 4 slides here, and then we'll show you the demo and actually show you what I mean by this. So Dux-Soup scan, it extracts the visible data from the list you have on screen. So you've got a search result, and that could be in LinkedIn, it could be in Sales Navigator, it could even be a list of people who've liked a post, for example. Your little Dux-Soup extension icon turns green, and then you can press the button and you can say scan. What Dux-Soup will then do, it'll start at the top of the list and it'll basically gather the data that you see there on screen. And it's only gathering high level data. And there are some differences. If you scan in regular LinkedIn, you get a different data set to if you scan in Sales Navigator and Recruiter. And you also get less data if you're scanning a list of people who like to post, for example. But it's a very, very quick way of gathering high level data, which can be incredibly powerful if you're trying to refine lists. So say, for example, you have got a post and maybe 500 people have liked that post, but you want to know the data about those 500 people. You go and find your post, you look at the list of people who've liked it, you scan it, you get your data, list of 500, and now you can filter that list out. So maybe from that list of 500 people, you could then filter out people who are maybe in certain roles, for example, and then you could filter that list and then upload that into a campaign. Incredibly powerful, but very, very quick. And I think in many cases underutilized. Some people think they want all the data straight away. Actually, with a certain amount of high level data, you can make really good decisions upon whom you're reaching out to. So we'll show you some scanning in a second, and I'll show you what the data looks like there. Visits. This is when it captures the visible data when it's opening a profile. Of course, it's going to take longer than scanning. And I had a really good conversation with somebody earlier today, David. I'm not sure if he's on the call or not, but he was trying to gather some information from first degree connections. And he wondered if scanning would give him enough information. So we pulled up the list and we scanned a little bit. We had a look and said that there's not enough information there. So he has Dux-Soup Turbo. So we created a campaign which is just visiting profiles. He filtered his first degree list and he had, I don't know, 900 or so profiles there. We enrolled them all into a visit campaign. And then during that campaign, now he's enrolled all of those 900 into that visit campaign. And then all of that data is then going to be available for him to download in a number of different ways once it's visited those profiles. So we'll show you how we can download that and how it's actually going to work a little bit later. More complete data. Remember, every Dux-Soup action requires a visit, as I've said there already. So where is the data going? What's happening to it? So it can be seen in lots of different places, depending upon the setup. With Dux-Soup Pro, remember that's our cheapest, our lowest priced version of Dux-Soup, you can only download the data from within the extension. So I'll show you how that works in a moment. With Turbo and Dux-Soup Cloud, with those 2 additions, you have got lots of different options for looking at and downloading data, and you can even use the API to have data appearing in your CRM or your chosen other platform. And as well as that, we now have within the dashboard, there's the ability to download prospect information, which actually enables you to gather conversation data as well, which is incredibly powerful. So you can look at your conversation history with your prospects as well and download that to a CSV file. So yeah, Pro's via extension, Turbo is via the extension. So you still have that option if you've maybe gone from Pro to Turbo and you're used to using it that way. But you can also do it in the dashboard via the prospects. With the cloud version, you would always use the prospects button there because that's the most commonplace. You can also use the funnel, but that gives you limited data. But then, yeah, Turbo and Cloud, you do have the API and integration options as well. What can you do with the data once you've got that data? So you visit or scan to collect your data. You then maybe refine lists. You maybe use that data to enrich some existing data you already have. maybe you imported in bulk into your CRM. Maybe, as I said earlier, we were talking about that example earlier, how you maybe want to gather data upon your first degree connections, so you can then build your own customer database that way. There are so many different examples as to how data is used. And one prime example, based upon a recent webinar which we covered with regards our our AI integrations, excuse me, with regards to the AI integrations, Dux-Soup is using this data to help construct those AI messages. So think about that. You know, Dux-Soup is looking at the data that LinkedIn has made visible, and it's using that data to construct those AI interactions. So there are so many different examples there, and it can be used in so many different ways. Everyone has their own use case, and while I'm talking, hopefully plenty of you have got some questions coming in. What we're going to do now is we are going to jump to me sharing my screen. I never get this right first time, fingers crossed. Let me get the right screen. There we go. Hopefully that is working. Joe, is that working okay? Yeah, it looks like it is. So you can all see my Dux-Soup screen now. Let's get rid of that one. So first of all, we are in LinkedIn, and we have here, for example, a search result. Now, as I said earlier, what we could do is we could be clicking on our, bear in mind, I've got Dux-Soup Turbo here. Now, one of the things we're going to do straight away is we are going to get Dux-Soup to give Dux-Soup permission to allow us to gather data and store data in our browser cache. So how can we do that? We're going to click on our extension icon and click on our Dux-Soup options button here. And then the first thing we're going to do is we are going to open up some more options. We're going to press this expert user type. And then we're going to go here to our browser, and we are going to make sure that we have checked this button here, record profile data. That allows the cached data within the browser to be stored by Dux-Soup. Some people don't like using data at all. So if you want to run things without, you're not interested in gathering data at all, people will uncheck that, and Dux-Soup can run a little bit quicker because it's not storing data. Now, by way of an example here, we can see here, if I click on my extension icon, I've got 306 profiles recorded, and I've visited 117 profiles today. Now, again, we can actually change what is shown in our extension here, but with this display button here, we can see here, I've got mine set to capture profile count, so I know what's cached here within my browser. Right, so now that I've done that, I'm here back at my list, and so I can now, for example, I could scan this list, and if I scan this list, it will start to gather the high-level information that is here. And once I've done that, I would then press my download data button here, and we can see here I've got a scan list. And I don't know if this is going to work here. No, it never works in this browser. Let's go back to my other browser. Let's go here. There we go. And so this here is some data that I scanned earlier today. Now, what we'll see here is there's different types of data shown here. So we can see here that I've got time that I scanned, the profile URLs is gathered here, first name, last name, and job title. And then in some cases, I've got location. In some cases, I've got reaction. So actually, these people here like to post. That's where I scanned that particular part of the list from. So we're here, we're able to get the job title, and we're able to get the location if we're in a search result. If I go down to the bottom here, we can see there's some more that I got from a search result here, so we can see those ones. If I'm scanning from a list of people who like to post, I don't get that location. So just to show you what I mean by that, let's go back here and just reopen LinkedIn. Here we go. So if I take this one for here, for example, if I scanned this list here, again, I'll wait for my icon to turn green. If I scan this list, I will get first name, last name, and job title, and also what their reaction was, whether it was a like or praise or whatever it may be. So we can see the different data there that Dux-Soup is able to gather based upon the list that we're scanning from. Now, that's available in Dux-Soup Pro, Turbo, and Cloud. We can always scan. That's always a possibility because it's a great way to gather data really, really quickly from our lists. And remember, Dux-Soup will just scan until it gets to the end of a list. And one of the things that's worth remembering is how long are the lists that you're going to see. So if I'm in a search result like this in regular LinkedIn, I'm only going to see the first 1,000 results. So here I've got at least 10 pages here, so I don't know how many pages there are in this list, but I will see 100 pages because it gives me 10 results per page. If I'm in Sales Navigator or Recruiter, I still see 100 pages, but I see 25 results per page. So that's something to remember when you're building your search results and your lists and you're wanting to run things. If I was to press scan here, it would just scan all the way through to the end of the list, and it would probably take, it doesn't take very long to scan. It's literally just going to go through. It's like scrolling through the pages. It'll maybe take a minute or so over each page, probably less than that even, and it'll just work its way through. Now, if you're using Dux-Soup Pro and you want to gather the data of the people who you've been visiting, so if you're using Pro, of course, you'll be using maybe Visit or Visit and Connect, and Dux-Soup will go out and visit profiles. You can then, of course, if you've enabled the Save the Profile checkbox and everything, we can now do download data, and we can now download our visit data. Depending upon whether you're using regular LinkedIn or Sales Navigator, I don't think regular LinkedIn is giving us skills at the moment, but in Sales Navigator, you can certainly gather all of this information. But again, if I just gather my visit data here, and I did this earlier, so I don't need to go back and do it again. Try and find the right one. I think it's this one. This is my visit data from earlier. This here gives me some information. You see here, it's a little bit limited, but it's giving me the time I scanned. It's giving me the different URLs, whether that's regular LinkedIn, Sales Navigator, Recruiter, etc. Degree of connectivity, number of connections if it's under 500. If you're visiting in Sales Navigator, you'll see the number as well there. Some cases we see the summary information, and here we are seeing company information. Very much depends upon how you're visiting profiles. If you're visiting in Sales Navigator or Recruiter, you do get more information. But again, we'll also see eventually location, industry, and over on the right-hand side here, if you've got Dux-Soup tags used as well, then you will also see Dux-Soup tags and notes there. So that's just some data from earlier today that I was gathering based upon some visits in regular LinkedIn. So if you're using if you're using Sales Nav or Recruiter, you will see more. And that's all available with Pro and Turbo. Remember that. Now, if you are a Turbo or a Cloud user, and of course with Cloud you're not visiting profiles locally within your browser, of course. Option you have then all sits within your Dux Dash. If we go to the Dux Dash, remember if you click on our extension icon, we go down here, we can open the Dux Dash, and this here is my dashboard. Now I've got a whole series of campaigns, and one I've been using today has been primarily this Just Visit campaign, where I'm just getting Dux-Soup to visit some profiles just to gather some data. If I go here to the left-hand side, under the funnel flow here, I can go in here and per campaign. So if I take my Just Visit campaign here, we can see here down below, I can see all the people that have been enrolled into that campaign, and I can copy this information. So if I wanted to copy this data here out of my enrolled tab, I can do that, and I can paste that straight into a spreadsheet. So let's do that a second. If we go and just open let's very quickly, there we go. So if I now paste that into here, there we are. Those are the people who went into that campaign, and I can see here the information that Dux-Soup is able to show me there. These have all gone into that particular campaign, and it's giving me some information here. Job title, company name, industry, and location. So that information is all available from the funnel flow, which is fantastic. Very simple to gather, and it can be done per campaign and per date range, of course. So that's really useful. However, with Turbo and Cloud, we have an extra string to our bow. We have this button here called Prospects. And the Prospects button here is where you can really gather more information. Again, we can break it down per campaign. We can break it down per degree of connectivity and per date range. We can export this data to a CSV file, and I did it earlier, so I'm actually going to go straight back to my spreadsheet here and hopefully find the right one. It's this one here. So this here is the data that I got out of my prospects button. And what you'll see here is that this is much more comprehensive. We can see the last time that I visited the profile, so I've got a timestamp and I've got an ID there, which is something that we use as an identifier. We've got the different URLs again, we've got the degree of connectivity, we've got the first name, middle name, last name, and now we've got more accurate information regarding connections. I've got the summary data, I've got the job title, where they've worked and for how long, company URL, etc., etc. If it's visible, here we will see email addresses. Now remember, you're far more likely to see email addresses of first degree connections than of second and third degree connections. But if they're visible, you'll see them there. We'll see phone numbers, Twitter handles, etc., etc., location and industry, and so on and so forth. So you see here, we're getting much greater levels of information. Now, this isn't a great example because you also see conversations. I don't think I have any conversations in here right now because no, you see here under column Z, we would have conversations. I don't think I've got any particular conversations. There we go, there's something there. There's a couple of exchanges there. But if there were LinkedIn exchanges, you would also see that information being presented here within this file. This isn't a great example because I don't have any conversations ongoing with these people who I've just been visiting, but hopefully you get the idea there. So you can see here the sort of information that Dux-Soup's able to gather at scale and how easy it can be to access here through the dashboard, through the prospects button. You go and find your campaign, you choose which degree of connectivity you're interested in, you choose your date range, and you can just export that to CSV file. One last thing which I want to cover before we jump onto questions, I'm just conscious of time, is of course the API and all of the possibilities via the API. Our integrations as well. So we have all of our different integrations available here. So all of these platforms here we've got integrations with, and Dux-Soup uses the data that it can gather during visits in order to populate the CRM or your chosen platform with the appropriate information, and that does it dynamically. And one of the really interesting things is if we go back to this browser, and I'm just trying to find it now. We've got a couple of articles which I've shared in the resources section, so you can see here how to record the profile data in a CSV file, different ways to do it, and this here shows you the different data you get in different platforms here. So this link is also in the resources section. So hopefully that opens your eyes as to what you can do with data, how much data you can get. And the one last thing I was going to show you was how do you then make use of that data in Dux-Soup. We can go into our funnel flow here, and we can then enroll from our clipboard or from our files. So if you've got a CSV file containing LinkedIn URLs, you can just literally upload your URLs, your CSV files into your chosen campaigns that way, opening all sorts of possibilities.
That's awesome.
Joe, do we have some questions?
We do have a couple of questions, yes.
Fantastic.
Sarah has asked, can she have a free trial? And my answer, Sarah, is yes, absolutely. There is a button on your screen. I think it's maybe on the right of your screen. You can click on that to get a free trial started. So follow up. And
if you ping me an email as well, we'll also do a demo for you. That's not a problem. Yeah. If you need a 20-minute demo, whatever, screen share, just send us an email and we can arrange that as well.
Amazing. So yeah, we have 2-week free trials available for everybody. So please do make use of that. Abdul has asked, can you visit and scan second and third degree connections?
Absolutely. Yeah. You just define your list. You put your filters in, wait for the little duck icon to turn green and say, go and visit or go and scan. Absolutely. Yeah. I was using a first degree example there because it's particularly pertinent. A lot of people forget about their first degree connections. And it was a particular example from earlier today, but absolutely you can go and carry out a search, filter it by second, third, first degree connections, whatever it may be. And then you can just go and visit them. Remember, when you're visiting second and third degree connections, you're unlikely to see email addresses, but depending on what data you're looking for, it may well be that it fits the bill for your requirements.
Yeah. And obviously also it can result in a visit back and then that connection.
Absolutely. If you're doing that, make sure you've got your visibility settings set correctly. Make sure that people can see that you're visiting them, and you do have separate settings for that in both regular LinkedIn and Sales Navigator, something to just be aware of.
Fab. Bruno's asked, what's the limit or maximum number of people that you can enroll from an Excel file? Great question, Bruno.
Oh, I don't think I've found the limit on that one. I know I was speaking to somebody earlier today who managed to enroll over 3,000 from a CSV file. So no, I don't believe that there is necessarily a limit. The only thing I would say about that is that if you're looking at doing a big enrollment like that, and you're bearing in mind your daily limits and all that sort of stuff, I tend to work in maybe 1 to 2 week timescales. So say you're visiting, I don't know, maybe you've warmed up your account a bit and you're visiting 200 profiles a day, for example. So it's 1,000 a week. Think about, not putting any more than maybe 2,000 in, because you may need to change tack. Something might come in and you don't want to have to wait for all of that to run through before you then do something else. It's just something to bear in mind. Somebody who I spoke to earlier today as well, they'd enrolled a couple of thousand people into a campaign, and there was a visit, and then there was a post before the connection request. And of course, all those visits need to happen, or they're happening in advance before the other things start to happen. So think about that flow of actions before you go and put too many people in there. I have spoken to people in the past who've had over 50,000 actions in their queue, and I suspect those queues are still ticking along.
Cool. Murray has asked, which of the URLs are provided when scanning? Is it when scanning LinkedIn and also SalesNav? The URL with the slug, e.g. linkedin.com and then blah, 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 or is it your profile ID?
I'm just looking now and I can't find the file. That's typical, isn't it? Where'd it go? Oh, it's that one. When I'm scanning from regular LinkedIn, is that right? When I was scanning from within regular LinkedIn, it was giving me just the normal URL, linkedin.com/in/name of person with a number, or whatever they've done there. If you're scanning from within Sales Navigator, I did have a link here somewhere. Let's have a quick look. If you're scaling, yeah, you'll get that plus the LinkedIn plus the Sales Navigator URL as well. I believe you get both the regular LinkedIn and the Sales Navigator URL. But have a test of it and see, because I have seen different things coming up from different people. It used to, for example, we used to get like a modified URL which was slightly different, but then Dux-Soup could interpret it so it could still visit the profile as well. But now it looks like we get the regular LinkedIn URL when we were scanning in regular LinkedIn, and the Sales Navigator when scanning in Sales now.
Okay, all right, cool, thank you. Murray, and also who else did it? Jakob asked, what's the recommended limit for visiting and scanning profiles? And Murray said, is there a limitation? Is it separate to the invite limits of 100 a week? And I think we've got an article on there called LinkedIn Limits, I think, in the resources section there, Murray. And that's got the details in there. But I think it is different, isn't it? It's separate to that invitation limit.
Yeah, absolutely. Because invitations, you're sending out messages, unsolicited messages to people you've never met before very often. And that's where, you're 20, 25, 30. If you've warmed an account up over time, you may be doing 30 or 40 invites per day over time. But a lot of people stick to the 20, 25 per day. Now, visiting profiles only, of course, is just opening a profile. And you can browse through and visit lots of profiles every day. Now, if you're running a free LinkedIn account, then you will hit a buffer at some point. This example here, I've been using a free LinkedIn account, and I can visit 100 or so profiles a day, no problems at all, 100, maybe 120, 130 before I hit any issues. I will find issues though with a free LinkedIn account if I do too many searches. I am limited per month with how many searches I can carry out. But of course, there's different ways of looking at data, because you can look at your network, you can look at a search result, you can look at people who've reacted to a post. There's you can look at group members, for example. Lots of different places to look at profiles. So there is always there's a limit with number of searches on a free account. Now, if you've got a paid LinkedIn account, you will be fine to be visiting 150 plus profiles a day. I was talking to somebody earlier who had a recruiter license, and they've warmed their account up and they are now visiting 250 profiles a day. So that's visiting, that's not sending connection requests, that's just visiting And that could include liking a post, it could include following people, but that visiting part is they're doing 250 a day. It is covered in that article. When it comes to scanning, we have not really found a limit, to be honest. So if you've got a search result which includes 1,000 people and you can scan that list, it's literally it looks to LinkedIn like it's you just scrolling through that list and gathering the data or looking at that data. You can control the speed of the scanning through the Dux-Soup options under the throttling settings. So have a look at that as well. But we haven't found a hard limit there on the scanning side of things.
Okay, fab. And then Ben mentioned Boolean searches. Can you run Boolean searches on the data that you get from?
I think what he means there is you can carry out a search using Boolean search terms and then scan according to that. Let me just show very, very quickly. Bit of a ban. Find the correct screen again, hopefully. There we go. So if I go into LinkedIn here,
on your screen's not.
So I could do digital marketer or I don't know, director. Not, I don't know, student. There we go. So I can do a Boolean search here, absolutely, in LinkedIn. Once my little Dux-Soup extension icon turns green, I can then, of course, carry out whatever I want to like about this. So yeah, I can use the and, or, and not in order to be able to build this list accordingly. And then in a moment, once we've got the green icon, there we go. Now I can scan this, and I know that my search results here is good. One thing that a lot of people forget, just a little aside, which a lot of people forget. When you've got Sales Navigator, of course, you think, great, I can save my searches. If you're in regular LinkedIn, you can't save your searches. If you've got, was it the Career Plus or whatever the other versions, and Business Pro or whatever the other LinkedIn versions are, where you don't have access to full Sales Navigator. If you're carrying out a search like this and you want to remember it, just create a bookmark. Label it accordingly, and you can always go back to it in the future as well. Something that a lot of people forget. You don't get to save searches, and it doesn't give you dynamic updates, okay? But you can always then go back and find them if you need to. And it's something that a lot of people forget. Use bookmarks with your searches. Just make sure you label them well so you remember who they are. That's
a great tip. Love that one, Giles. Thank you. And that here endeth the questions. Awesome, which is just a couple of minutes over time, so that's really awesome. Thank you everybody for joining. Thank you, Giles, for joining us too. Remember that our next session is on the 8th of September. There's a button there on the right hand side for you to register for that, and don't forget,
it's all very exciting.
It is very exciting. And don't forget, if you want to have a free trial with us, and the button is available for that too, and you get 2 weeks. Yeah, that's great. We will enjoy the rest of your summer, guys, and we will see you back here in just under a month.
Indeed. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.